Welcome everyone to another headache live stream. Here with the PS3, as some people noticed, unfortunately, if you try to load this amazing ISO, amazing from us, you might have noticed also you can never have enough too many PS3, can never have too many PS3 and test enough. You might have noticed if you tried to run this that you got only some strange truncated, compressed, whatever init.rd stuff. And here also so much too. I thought it would probably work, and here you can never test enough. More testing, the most testing, and even more testing. Attack and stuff. So unfortunately, most likely, it booted on my dev PS3. I should have known better. I should have tested this. But here we are, that's live. Yeah, so we need to fix this somehow after all our size optimization. So the irony is I booted on the memory limited UltraSpark Ultra 5. Also, do we have here? It's funny, why is this? Like, no, it was working a second ago. Well, working and working. Anyways, this is funny. Tested before the live stream and not the respected result though. Anyway, we need to optimize this further. The size of the init.id, so the problem is most likely, as far as I diagnose here from staring on the black screen, or actually the output. Maybe the black screen is a result of overflowing the memory, maybe faster than the P3 frame buffer comes up. I never had this on the dev P3 the last days. But it annoyed me anyway on the Spark, on maybe even the G5, that the init.id is not now so large. The init.id in Linux, what is loaded first? Initial RAM disk. Init.id stands for initial RAM disk. And the problem is that it loads so slow and compresses so long. So even on the Ultra 5 here, the other video, it's pretty annoying when the init.id asks, now we have this. So someone wrote here at a black screen and then this. So apparently maybe this was not rebugged 4 point something, because we are running other OS plus 3, 5, whatever. So yeah, RAM disk end of file reading compressed data. I cannot be 100% sure. It's only a guesstimate, but it worked on the dev P3 as you've seen in the other live stream. It's exactly the same USB stick. So we could YOLO this. So as I said, the problem most likely being this is too large. And I compressed this here. So the issue is, of course, similar to the Ultra 5, or exactly like the Ultra 5. We have here 256 megabyte of memory. And if the init.id is so large, I should have so much to going online without launching your correct. So you can tell me how the audio is. It's the same setup. So I checked this already before the live stream, decompressing this here in build. PowerPC 64 dual. Where are we? Disk. Boot. So the problem is, why is this so large? It is so large, this init.rd, because we have here all, also not here, we have here all possible modules in here. So the init.rd is 20 megabyte, which is relatively large, and this is even the small init.rd without the firmware modules. With the firmware, it would be even larger. Is here, or did I check? It should actually be firmware, so due to some build, so we are somewhat lucky that it is at least not that large. So how do we fix this? We could just also to show you this. So 20 megabyte compressed, this is uncompressed 100 megabytes. So we waste half of the precious memory we waste for this. And there are a couple of unfortunate things. So one thing, for my microkernel, for my dream microkernel, I would do this differently. So whole booting, this is also somewhat hilarious. So whole like loading half of your system in memory just to load some SCSI driver. I would do this entirely different. Mac OS X, by the way, is doing it a little bit similar with some kx cache thing, a little bit similar, not entirely similar. We could YOLO this and just delete, say, all kinds of stuff. The problem is we cannot know what we need to boot. Of course, it might be that we boot on the PS3 and we don't need all the SCSI modules, but it can also be we boot on a Mac. We boot on a Power Mac or on a IBM P-Series server. So yeah, this is where we need all those modules. Of course, again, we could like YOLO that and delete them all away, but yeah, it's probably not the finest way. As I said, it annoyed me already for the Spark and other machines, so I thought, well, one thing would be a low-hanging fruit if there would be an init, compressed init RAMFS. I also wonder why stuff is also, if you Google this compressed init RD, there are also other people Googling for that compressed init RD, but yeah, it doesn't. There's only the closest that comes as setRAMFS. That doesn't help us that much. So yeah, I also wonder sometimes why some trivial things do not exist in Linux land, but yeah, what do I know what all the famous upstream celebrity developers do all day. So to improve this, when we take a look here, the easiest way, except deleting all of the stuff. So what we cannot just delete everything. What we could do, we could filter this a little bit more of not including all kinds of stuff in there, like exotic SCSI drivers. But then this would be a lot of hard coding, like regular expression, like Apple series of substitute this away and that away, like not include fiber channel, whatever. So I thought maybe we should just switch as an easier, well, the easiest is to delete it. The second, yeah, I rather implement something more amazing and instead of some garbage. So I was thinking maybe we should just compress those modules. When we take a look from all of this stuff, so this is from the 90, how much was it? So this is a compressed init RD, which again, super large, 97 megabyte. So 90% of this 86 out of 97 megabyte are just bloody kernel modules that you may need but usually don't need. Also, this is wrong. Yeah, 87. So these are all of those, like crypto, like if you have some encrypted root volume. And again, we could delete vast of the stuff away, but it certainly is not the most amazing solution. So what I wanted to do instead is maybe use the opportunity, as so often makes this better in general, state of the art. There is support for compressed kernel modules. So far I never really had the need. However, upstream compression only supports .set and like gzip and xset, and both are not my favorite choice right now nowadays anyway. So I imported here already a patch. Someone else has done there some patch for set standard, as we compress already with set standard, and that is super fast. So what this helps is if those kernel modules are compressed, actually we could and should probably check this. Let's see how much. Yes, so 20. So probably we can save most of this. So what we can probably save is 87 minus something like 18. So 69 megabyte we probably can save, because booting this, loading the initial RAM disk, then all those 87 megabyte of kernel modules that we may or may not need remain compressed in the init.rd without any fancy compressed init.rd, just stupid old-fashioned, it's just compressed. So yeah, regular old-fashioned compressed files. So yeah. And as people are downloading this, we probably should do this sooner than later. So for this, so I imported the patch. I built it already. Most likely it didn't really have effect because it was patching also the configure PowerPC. So let's take a look. var adm logs, that would be one kmod. Most likely set standard. So set standard support, actually not requested R. This is interesting. I didn't think it takes effect. Probably it did it actually auto reconfigure, maybe. Apparently it auto reconfigured due to okay, fine, kmod due to maybe the changed file modification time. So let's request this. So that would be if installed, then set standard, and also set standard. This is just, otherwise it's probably not that's probably not enabling, and we also need auto reconf. I hope it was auto reconf. Let's auto re scripts or auto gen. Maybe it was auto gen. This is just so that the T2 scripts auto magically run. Oh, come on. Rerun this. Otherwise, you've seen configure might be doing this. Also, fun fact: I just greased this bloody office chair a month ago, and so it's squeaking already. Can never have enough grease in your bloody office chair. Okay, let's see if this builds with set standard support. Set standard. It's of course nice that someone else edit this. So set standard, yes. The other stuff, well, setlab also. So far so good. We probably can commit this. Didn't really test this yet. Package base. The cool thing is that it makes it better for all the other architectures. So also Spark and RISC-V and so on, and T2 here being on the forefront of the technology. Usually I don't add these patches, but I don't want to use this old-fashioned xset. If we already use set standard in the init RD for our init RD and so on, and everything else, package tables, I prefer to use the same for everything. So also certainly is a little bit smaller than gset. Edit set standard. Compressed kernel module support to kmod. Yes, do it. Also here, should also not type this accidentally. And there you see how busy you can be with all the stuff. If it's not some UltraSpark stuff, then it's some P3 stuff. You name it. So let's then next there is support. So apparently, hopefully this kmod is on the fly decompressing it. Actually, I slightly wonder if this works with UDEV auto loading, but I would hope. By the way, fun fact, would probably better rebuild UDEV then, not that this errors out for some reason. This is newly linking against libset standard. And then let's for a moment check if either we patch whether we patch the Linux kernel. I saw here somewhere. Where would this be? But maybe we just take a look ourselves. xvf download mirror Linux 5 something. Because of course the Linux kernel also doesn't have support for this, and I guess it should be transparent of kmod loading this with the user space API uncompressed. However, where would this be? Would this be in maybe kernel? Not in RD, actually module. Modules is here. Where is this compressed thing? Oh, wait a second. Was it just there? Module signature. What? I thought there's something. Oh, wait a second. This is also the make file. Let's take a look in config. mod compressed in all of this. Module compressed. There is something init. Of course, it's in init and not in kernel. What was I thinking? So modules compress, and the built-in support is only that here, gzip and xset, which again both we don't want to use because it is too old-fashioned for us. By the way, fun fact, I just the other day discovered accidentally that for recursive search, I mentioned this already in the Discord, you only need -r. Until recently I always typed in here something, so the current directory is then implicit. So select makefile, if diff, maybe this. So the question is, does it more than manually running compressed xset? So that is if mod compression command. So maybe we can just manually override this mod compress command with set standard export. Now, okay, of course it's not in this makefile. We never have enough makefiles. Oh, missed. So that would be in scripts makefile modinst, and that is simply running modules install cp, and otherwise just run the module compression command on that, so that we certainly can do ourselves. So without patching this, probably most likely we could actually give that a try for a test. That would be set standard something, of course. So why does it have, what is f gzip n? I only wonder, actually, the big question actually is if our init.rd stuff can cope with that. So it's not even only that, we also actually need to check that mod info stuff still works. Maybe, so how do we test this? The easiest would be to build the kernel once. Okay, fine, we anyway need to rebuild the kernel for this, to test this. Modules, so for a test we can just make inst opt, just add this here, like var append inst opt, and okay, so the problem is if we don't patch it in, this might be a little bit tricky. Mod compression command. I think this should work if we define it on the command line. The only question is how this works with the escaping. This probably should work if we test the set standard. The only tricky thing is always with bases in this kind of variable assignments. Set standard, do we have here some, yeah, set standard x. Wait a second, why does this? F is fast, no, fast is force. Override with our prompting, okay, probably don't, or do we? Oh, that is actually good if if the file is already there. Darn it, probably we should. Does not make much of a difference. The question is, so that is unfortunately not removing the remove source after successful compression or decompression. Okay, unfortunately, we probably need something like that then. What do we even do here? So let's see, because we want to get rid of the original file. Let's build this into the system that we have the latest version here. Hope should this hopefully not ruin. A bit dangerous to build something like that into the system. Yeah, also we had so kmod, so right, last time this already didn't run. Because the question is how those tools behave. We might need to adapt our init rd stuff also for that. So let's, yeah, something we don't really need, like let's compress that. Yeah, that is indeed, you see how much smaller that gets. Yeah, okay, we can leave it there. Let's try mod info. Okay, so this works then. Apparently the question is then mostly actually most likely need to adapt something. Let's delete this. Let's try this again. Okay, this still works. Does it work without? Okay, and it needs a full file name apparently. It's a little bit tricky. So this will be, so you see just adding a tiny little bit of compression, a rather more involving project as usual, because just compressing as well, except adding support to kmod and compressing this in the kernel. The next thing is, of course, even mkinit.rd needs some tweaking then to handle this extension. So let's see, with some escaping. So we wanted set standard force rm minus, let's just minus 18 just for that. And here we need some escaping now. Maybe we double that, like, I don't know, maybe that could work if course. Oh, well, we can first try it without and see how it's going. Unfortunately, even that will take a moment, because even on the AMD thread-ripping Ryzen, this will take a moment. Theoretically, we could suspend the live stream. Not so much going on here right now. Yeah, but maybe we, if you want to see more of this, maybe we switch over to the more live channel where we anyway need more views and subscribers. That's basically the summary, how you add some new infrastructure and how you solve issues. Also, yeah, the usual stuff, testing, more testing. If you don't test it, usually doesn't work. Like yesterday, someone asked in the audience, does it work on a non-dev PS3? I said, yeah, probably. Hopefully you can test it. And of course, if you don't test it, it doesn't work. But then again, all of this open source stuff takes so long that can't test everything. And then also, yeah, you could, that is also the difference. In T2 we do things a little bit more proper. Many other homebrew projects, often YOLO stuff like delete something, quirk something. I much prefer for the long term adding here some real infrastructure, some real features, instead of just solving the PS3 issue and deleting something just for the smaller init when we can add compressed kernel module support. So this also not as important on the system, although I saw it takes 90 megabyte. If you have 10 kernels, then yeah, 100 megabytes times 10 gigabyte just for 10 versions of kernels lying around. If you're a developer, of course, many of you don't have the problem, and I also run BetaF usually with some compression, but especially for the initRD, as much as the size is exploding, and they also see the scalability of this initRD solution of just, yeah, let's just load everything there on startup, and then it's super massive. But yeah, recurring theme here, I so much want to make the stuff even more better in a microkernel. How I would solve this in a microkernel is with some hardware abstraction layer, access the disk, and like load the installed initRD, maybe similar to Windows NT actually, loads the BetterFS module and have this boot volume, because the bootloader anyway accesses the BIOS, EFI, or good old-fashioned, or hypervisor, or open firmware and stuff. Then I would rather have some early bootloader code stuff access the file system via the already loaded BetterFS module and stuff, than having like preloading, like having modules loaded as pre-binding, like 5, 6, 7 modules in my microkernel, then having hundreds or actually 10,000 of modules here that you never need in the initRD just in case of whatever. But yeah, anyway, maybe that's it for the stream, otherwise they become too long and something. Maybe we switch over to the more live channel there on the recommended channel page and finish that. Certainly, it easily, unfortunately, could take another hour. So if you want to see all those details and testing, then probably tune in there. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Hope you learned something. And also how much time always can we just have some ISO here. This too large, this optimized, this breaks, and so here, this not tested. And there's always something. And so yeah, hope we have this even better in general than soon, and hope to see you on the other channel.